Alright, I am back with another Marvel's Avengers video, and I am being extremely on brand today with my very cool Avengers hat because my hair is all messed up, and I remembered that I own this, so I figured I'd use it for an Avengers video here. What I want to talk about today is kind of my expectations for this game going forward. And this is not like some dunk fest or whatever. Like, I know I was really harsh about the Omega level threat, which I did not like at all, and I stand by that. But this is just kind of realistically where I see the game going through the Black Panther expansion, and after that, and sort of its long-term prospects or lack thereof. We just got a release date for the Black Panther War for Wakanda expansion, which is coming out on August 17th. That is a little sooner than I thought. I thought it might squeeze in before the end of the month, but that is pretty much only 2 weeks away. Everything I have seen from this looks like it's going to be good at a fundamental level. I think it is going to be a pretty substantive new addition to the game. I am extremely excited to play with the Black Panther character kit because I think they have done a fantastic job with all of these kits, and this will effectively be the first time we get to play as Black Panther in a game like this that isn't like a one of the many Marvel kind of fighting games where they have like a bazillion heroes in them. And I think that they will probably do a really good job with this. Everything we've seen from Wakanda looks gorgeous. They have a very good voice cast. They're adding a lot of new characters from Wakanda that are both from the movies and some from the comics, and they have Evan Narcisse working on this, who's done some really great Black Panther books. Christopher Judge voicing T'Challa himself. And then they have Ulysses Klaue as a villain, and then probably one more that is either, I think it's Ultron or Crossbones or one of those. I'm not exactly sure which of those is going to pan out, but regardless, it's cool. They have some new enemy types, even though AIM will still be around. So I am expecting a solid campaign from this. I'm expecting Black Panther himself to be fun. And I assume this expansion will be enjoyable. After that, I believe that we will get Spider-Man before the end of the year. Everything I've heard from Crystal Dynamics, they will not explicitly confirm this on the record. Everything is strongly hinted at that Spider-Man will be the next hero after Black Panther. When I was asking them questions about leveling and stuff, they said that they're not changing anything about like 0 to 150 leveling for Black Panther, but they might change some aspects of that by Spider-Man. That implies Spider-Man is the next hero, and by that point, it will be over a year since this game came out, and it was also very strongly implied that like they have to do Spider-Man. They made a commitment to Sony as part of marketing for the game that PlayStation was getting Spider-Man as an exclusive hero. Obviously, it is a terrible idea to have an exclusive hero when the game is struggling on all these other aspects because, it's so desperate for content. You do not want to lock off Spider-Man and his campaign to just PlayStation. I'm guessing PlayStation may be the biggest platform for Avengers, but it's like right now it's having a free-to-play weekend, and that has taken the player count on Steam from like 500 players a day to like 5,000. So like people are, playing it or trying it out or whatever, just because it's a free offering. It's been on PS Now, things like that. So as bad as an idea as it was to commit to a Sony exclusive hero in the first place, like that is still happening. I cannot see that changing. That seems like a fixed point in time that they absolutely have to get done. And I don't know if there is some sort of like official time limit on how long they had to get that done, but they really have to to do it at some point. And if it's been over a year since they announced it, then they really have got to kind of get it out sooner or later. I think they wanted all of this out much sooner. Like the original plan was to release heroes at a much faster pace than what they're doing now. And I think the Black Panther expansion was supposed to be here like months and months ago, but they had so much work to do kind of fixing the game, fixing all these different issues and stuff. And I think they've been a little distracted by side projects that are not that important. Like they've put a lot of work into being able to replay the campaign, which with multiple heroes and stuff, which is fine, but like I don't know if that was worth all the effort they put into that. I personally don't think the current Omega level threat they put out was worth the time they spent on that either. But I have said in the past, I have liked many of the new content additions they've had, like the Kate Bishop stuff, the Clint stuff, and I thought the Monica villain sector was very good. I just wish that was probably the Omega level threat instead of the one we got, which I do not like. After that, I think things are a bit nebulous. I think everything pretty much relies on Black Panther being a success and that drawing a lot of new players into the game to the point where they can point at that and be like, look, we have a player base now. It's worth developing content for this still. Like, we are still on an okay track here. It is hard to see that happening. Nothing really that has happened in the past year has done much to turn the narrative around about Avengers. It is generally seen as a failure and as a swing and a miss, and almost everything is due to the fact that it was a live service when it didn't need to be. I will even agree with this as like Mr. Live Service, that this game probably would have been better off as a traditional kind of single player co-op campaign type of thing, rather than building it around, this war table and these repeatable missions and gear grinding and stuff, which just does not work at a fundamental level and has kind of really never worked for this game terribly well compared to its competition. I think that people can come back for these expansions and things like this, but keep in mind, like, measuring the success of this expansion is going to be difficult because Avengers also kind of ran into the issue of they locked themselves into committing that all of their future content updates would be free. So they have to be selling essentially the Black Panther Battle Pass, which all that is like some resources and some cosmetics for Black Panther that you can work your way through over time, and then their eternal selection of cosmetic skins, which is why we have seen an absurd amount of cosmetic skins develop for this game despite the low player base, because that is the only way they make money essentially at this point. Because they are not charging for new characters, they are not even charging for something as big as the Wakanda expansion, which in hindsight, I don't know if that was the best thing. Like, obviously, yes, this means more people will play the Wakanda expansion now because it's free, and yet I am not really a huge fan of this because it puts so much pressure on your other monetization methods. Like, you have to be selling just a metric ton of skins and things like that in order to make it worth your while, and a game like this needs revenue to support further development, and I just can't think that with the player base at the level it is, and with the revenue generation just relying on skins and takedowns and things, and the game being on like crazy sales everywhere, it's like $20-$30 most places, like I don't see how all of this adds up to continued development of this game for the long term past Spider-Man. They told me that when they are going to make a new roadmap, it would be like a year's worth of content, or it would be like multiple sections, maybe not a year's worth, but it would be, they're not just going to add like one section to the new roadmap, they're going to come out with like a whole new roadmap. It is possible that maybe they were convincing enough to Square Enix or Marvel that, they've said, give us another year. Like we've got a good baseline now. Like we know what we're doing now. We can put stuff out faster, and maybe they will get the green light for that. I am not leaning toward this happening because I do not see War for Wakanda providing a major, like a huge surge in the player base. Even if it is, good, because I think things might be a little too far gone now. I also kind of fundamentally disagree with the fact that they have gotten a handle on everything that the game, has wrong right now. Like, the technical stuff is mostly solved. Well, okay, that's probably an exaggeration because, like, this most recent thing launched and none of the exotics were dropping for a few hours and things like that. And there's still problems with, people dropping and crashes. And another problem with the Omega level event was that if someone leaves or drops, there is no backfill system. They will not be replaced. So that essentially makes the content impossible and ruins entire like 45-minute runs if one person rage quits or is dropped. At a fundamental level, this game has never figured out gear and loot, and it does not seem like it is on a track to do that. a core disconnect for this game and the looter genre has been that loot has never affected your cosmetic appearance, which has always made it pretty unsatisfying. And on top of that, the loot that does exist, there are very few ways that this interacts in interesting ways. They have all these elemental damage types that are confusing and not the best system I've seen in a game like this. It's just like, all these different, it's unique in that, like Pim damage shrinks things and like you do more damage to it and stuff, but like they really rely heavily on these certain damage types that are not as interesting as they should be. And, all top tier builds kind of rely on some kind of absurd buff stacking with different damage buffs you can acquire that kind of multiply off each other and get to insane damage, which is why you have really weird balance splits between like some coordinated teams with like perfect endgame builds can like two-shot this super adaptoid boss, where like a normal team at 150 who is just like playing the game normally and are not like totally maxing their builds, it's almost impossible to beat. And like there was a wide gulf there where this game has really not done a whole lot of balancing in general. So some builds have gotten out of control, whereas like lesser builds have never been buffed really in a significant way. And there were only kind of a scarce handful of perks that are unique to heroes that really feel kind of cool and build changing. But most everything is like 16 consecutive hits gets you a willpower boost, or like increases your charge rate, or perfect dodges do this. And like it's a lot of generic stuff that is just not very interesting. And there are no indications that like a big loot overhaul is coming. They seem pretty married to the system. And as long as that is true, like, again, I can see us running into a situation like we did with Kate Bishop and Hawkeye, where you like the War for Wakanda expansion will be good, it will be fun, and yet this will still not be a very fun game to grind end game content for. There's the loot issue. There is issues with lockouts per week. Like, it is beyond bizarre that this game is about to have nine characters, and most exotics are in a weekly lockout for one character. That doesn't make any sense to me. Like, if you want people to be continually playing the game and investing in more than one character, I don't understand why these lockouts exist. They've hinted that they may kind of lift those for things like the Omega level threat, but like it's been almost a year. Like these kind of core issues should have been solved a long time ago. And so as long as the game has problems with farming and loot, it is never really going to work as a live service shooter. And as promising as I think the upcoming content looks, like Wakanda, and even potentially, I'm sure they'll do a good job with Spider-Man, like that is not really the issue here. Like if you want to make this a successful live service game that people play frequently and frequently enough to invest in things like skins that, cost money, you have to kind of get the basics of this right, which this game does not have. I've gone off about Outriders many times because Outriders is a game that does not have any sort of known IP. It does not have Marvel heroes or anything, and yet it totally has these fundamentals really down. Outriders is a game that has a very coherent endgame farming loop. Like, you may have issues with like, timers and missions and whatever, but they structured this in a way that makes sense, that allows you to progress through difficulty tiers to get to max. It's a very straight line, like what you're doing. And then there are very clear builds that you are going for with legendary sets of armor, or I forget what they're even called, but and perks that synergize in interesting ways with your specific builds for that specific class, and generic mods that are at least more interesting than the generic mods in Avengers, even if a few of them in that game are overpowered. That is a game where like I sign on at any given time and like I know what I'm farming, I know what I'm going for, I know what my goals are. In Avengers, I often have no idea because both like it's just not as fun to build builds in Avengers given the perks, and also the route to get there is all over the place and very confusing in terms of like what you should be actually going for when. The war table system I think is a total mess, and that has never really changed. So the point is like, I think that they can keep making like quality campaign content for this, but to be sustained as a live service looter, there need to be fundamental structural changes to almost all other aspects of the game. Like, you have campaign missions down, you have a great voice cast, you are good at combat design for these character kits, and yet the live service aspects of this are not there, and they have not really been there for the last year. This is why it's hard to convince people to come back to this game, or if they do, they come back for a free thing that's 2 to 5 hours long at best, and then they drop the game for another 3 to 6 months. And I don't think that is going to be enough to greenlight kind of indefinite support for this. So I am leaning toward things kind of winding down after Spider-Man. If they can convince them to do another 6 months or a year of content, and maybe we'll squeeze a couple more new heroes out of it, I guess that's possible. But it's hard for me to see this game realizing its like grand 3, 4, 5 year plan that it originally had, and it wanted to be kind of a big pillar of the live service genre. That is very hard to see happening right now, and I don't know if that will change, even if War for Wakanda is good, given the situation we're in. So that went a bit longer than I thought, but those are kind of my overall thoughts on the series right now. As long as they keep putting out content, I will keep playing it, because at baseline, I do enjoy the new stuff they put out and playing with the characters, but it is not a game I am grinding for all the reasons I mentioned. We'll see what happens with War for Wakanda in a couple weeks here, and I will be happy to report however that goes, and we'll see where we're at then. But thanks for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Evie, you want to say goodbye? Okay. Evie says goodbye. She's hanging out with Baby Yoda, but I'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching, and take care.